Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Modern Investing on Pod TV. My name is Sasha Star, and our guest today is Jim Eat from Eat Foundations. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Thank you, Sasha. It's great to be here. Always happy when there's green on my screen.
Yes. Now, we are pre-recording this show. It's not live. We are pre-recording it on Tuesday. So the information, what we are going to discuss is applicable to this day.
That's correct.
Tomorrow, Wednesday, when you will see it, there will be something new, something important, maybe it's not so important, but we'll address it later, maybe next week. So, Jim, what do you think is happening last day, yesterday? Was good, not non-conclusive though, because at
Right.
the end of the day, market started to give in, but it's doing so well, so okay by now. So, what do you make out of it? Speaking about political situation, prices of oil, and the world situation.
It seems like the market is shrugging off the rise in the oil prices. Whether that lasts or not, I think will last. It will depend upon whether the oil prices remain high, because I think the market is factoring in, and this is my speculation, of course, that these strategic military operations cause a spike in oil, but it is in the past come down. So I think that the market is thinking that this is what's going to happen again. So they reacted when we first initiated this war of choice, but we saw that they kind of shrugged it off. And so the market has kind of gone back to where it was before, which was quite high. And I think that they are going to continue as though oil prices will come down. Now, if oil prices do not come down, we're going to see the economic repercussions. And even if they come down, the economic repercussions are going to stay with us for a long time because this was a global economic crisis that Trump initiated. And many countries now are feeling the effects because there's so much oil that cannot get through to the world, and the world has been depending upon oil. So, it's not just the U.S. markets that are feeling it. And Trump asked for help from the EU but then the EU said, you started this without consulting us. Why would we help you now? The idea of forming an alliance starts before you take action, not afterwards. So this was completely mishandled by Trump. And I think the markets will, if oil stays high, we'll see them come down again.
There is something else interesting. I've just learned that Trump is canceling his trip to China. So
Yes.
this is also very important for American economy, and for many aspects of that, canceling that trip shows U.S. weakness in a way. He doesn't want to appear in China before he will conclusively win this war in Iran. And I don't see how he's going to accomplish it anytime soon, because even if he will send 5,000
Yeah.
fighters, troops, what they can do, okay, they can probably take this island of, forgot its name. But even if you take this island and you take all the oil what is there, how does it help you to open Strait of Hormuz?
Right.
Also, I don't understand how this 5,000 people will get in to take over the island. Like they cannot go to Strait of Hormuz, so they're going to fly. There is a small airfield which is already being damaged, so they can fly maybe some small planes, maybe helicopters or so. But you cannot bring 5,000 troops by small planes or helicopters. So it's all mystery to me how they're going to solve that. Um, the Germans and UK told him that this problem, Strait of Hormuz, could be decided only diplomatically, cannot be solved from militaristic means. But I don't know what Trump really thinks, who is advising him, and what is the mechanism to make decisions. And I'm puzzled. I don't understand how it all works. It seems to me that it all is that he gets up in the morning and say, I want this. And everybody there, his advisors and so on, they will start working on a solution how to provide him with whatever he wants without criticizing it, without thinking what will be accomplished by doing exactly that what he wants. What is the benefits for the United States and its people to accomplishing this? Trump said in one of the interviews, I think yesterday, that who could think that Iran will start hurting the Gulf states? Who could think of that? This is
Many people could think.
Actually, Iran was saying exactly that.
Yes.
If there would be invasion, we are going to hurt your partners, your military bases in the region, your partners in the region, and so on. So now the Gulf states are thinking of wisdom paying Trump and his family billions, hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars, without any security guarantees, without any security whatsoever. So what kind of a deal is that? They feel that they're being taken, and now they're talking directly to Iran, make a deal that Iran will stop bombardment of their states. And United States making so many errors. For example, they're all asking, the Gulf states asking Ukrainians provide anti-drone devices.
Right.
And they offered it to United States, I think in April of last year. And they were sitting on that proposal for several months without reacting to that. And finally, after several months, they said, we don't feel that we need it at this time. So now Zelensky is, you see, it's not that United States incapable of doing what Ukrainians do. Probably they can. The problem is that Ukrainians during these years of war, they've collected enormous amount of data. How to deal in this situation and that situation, what triggers this, what triggers that. It's so a very rich experience that could be possible only during the real war. United States is capable of producing maybe better drones than Ukraine. Could be, but they don't have this data. And without this data, all their drones are useless unless tried in a real war. Ukrainians got that. That's why Ukrainians' expertise exceeds US so much, because this is all war-tried expertise and abilities.
But first of all, Trump has declared decisive victory more than once already. And we know that that's just him talking. It's not a reality. And we don't know what the end game would look like. We don't know what would constitute victory. What would be the end game where we would say we got what we wanted to accomplish done?
You know, if they will not reopen Strait of Hormuz in the next few weeks, say 5-6 weeks, the end of war will be the peaceful agreement with United States compensating Iran for everything what's been done to it, and that could lead to the opening of Strait of Hormuz. Other than that, I don't see any other. All this, the descent, US 5,000 fighters and so on. I really don't see how it will reopen the Strait of Hormuz. And by the way, he asked all the nations, Europeans and not Europeans, helping them. What Trump is saying is, look, you need this oil more than we need. We have enough oil to sustain, but oil is subject as a commodity to world prices. So US may have an abundance of oil resources, but the price for oil, and especially on the gas stations, will be incredibly high. In California, what I heard is already climbing to $5 a gallon. I think it's unacceptable. Okay, California is a rich state; it may withstand that, but let's see in Ohio, if you will see $5 per gallon, I think there will be a march on Washington, and very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's truly sad, and I don't know what the end game is in Trump's mind. I do know that he was told by the military that the strait would be closed if he did this action in Iran, and that they couldn't guarantee any way to reopen it militarily. So the EU is telling him the same thing. He's also asked Tokyo, Japan for support, and people are saying no. You started this. You clean it up. And so again, when we have conducted wars in the Middle East before, under Bush, we constituted an alliance.
Yeah.
And we went in there with combined military forces.
Look at the international coalition.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, and you can't do this and then ask for that coalition afterwards.
No, after UK sent 2 ships to help, and Trump says, "Get back your ships. We don't need your ships. We already won the war, and we have the strongest military, the biggest, the most expensive military. So just get out of here." So now all of a sudden,
so the war is being conducted, or the special military operation is being conducted on his whim, without the advice. He's not accepting the advice of his military. He's not listening to the advice of the EU or Japan. He's not getting the message that you do this go it alone kind of thing as a recipe for disaster. And of course, the consequences, the closing of the strait, the bombing of military bases around the area, and the bombing of other countries that have U.S. or Israeli presence. These types of things were entirely predictable. He was warned that these things would happen, and he ignored it. So again, the only recourse the average U.S. citizen has is to vote the bums out when the midterms come up. And from what we're seeing in special elections, and his approval rating, I think I saw something like 59% of the Americans were disapproved of the way that he's handling this, and why it's not more people, I don't know, but that's a big number of people that think that this has just been handled so very wrong. And the effects on the markets, as I said earlier, I think they're shrugging it off right now, but if it's sustained a month, you said 5 to 6 weeks, if it's a month, I think it's going to start hitting the marketplace again. And people are going to start, they're already feeling the pinch at the gas stations. As you said, I drive a UV, so I'm not as plugged into how much the gas costs. But, I do know that people are feeling the pinch at the grocery stores. Yeah. And, so the prices of goods, if they can get here, they're going to be costing more. And so, you're going to have fewer choices, and the choices you do have will be more expensive. People notice that, and people will notice the gas prices, and people will understand that the way he's broken all of his promises. He started military operations. He was going to have a booming economy. That hasn't materialized. Actually, the reverse is happening. We're losing jobs instead of gaining them. And, these types of things that are happening, again, we're entirely predictable. But the thing is, we elected someone who does not listen and wakes up, and depending on how he feels that way that day, he will do something that he wants to do, regardless of the input from others. And we have no idea what that's going to be tomorrow. How can we go on like this? Future is entirely unpredictable. Companies can't plan, so they're doing the best they can. They're trying to ignore them and build the data centers that they need to support the artificial intelligence that they're going to build. And as long as these companies keep reporting record earnings, NVIDIA said that they think their earnings are going to reach the $1 trillion level. And so, I'm not selling NVIDIA at this point. And I think them operating as all systems are normal is the only way they can proceed, because we have no way of knowing what tomorrow will bring with this guy in charge.
You see, with NVIDIA earnings, it's a unique situation just by itself. There are many other companies that are producing very, very good earnings.
Yes.
The problem is with the unstable market, unstable interest rates, and the outlook for a future quarter or the end of the year, that earnings could be discounted simply because of the overall economic situation. And that could hurt basically all market. Maybe NVIDIA will not go down as much as other stocks, quite possible, but it may have very limited upside potential at this point, just because of this situation. Of course, if Strait of Hormuz would be reopened and the war would be closed or so on, yeah, the market could react very positively to that.
Yes.
I'm very skeptical on the mechanism, how exactly it's going to be, unless all countries, including China and European countries and so on, they will lean on United States, stop the war. Yeah. Just stop the war, that's all.
Yeah, he could declare peace with honor. We've done that before.
Declare peace, but Iranians will still ask for reparations.
Yes.
Because the Americans inflicted incredible damage to Iran.
But how do you make reparations for all those girls we killed by bombing a school?
I'm not even discussing that.
There's no possibility of making reparations for that. And the missiles and the oil refineries and all of the things that we've destroyed, there's a financial cost that can be calculated. Would we be willing to pay it? Trump is not the kind, he's the art of the deal guy,
Well, art of the deal will be Strait of Hormuz. Strait of Hormuz will be closed until you will pay all the reparations to Iran. Okay, Donald, that's where we are.
Yeah.
Then what? So he will ask all countries contribute to the contribution to.
And why should they?
Well, they didn't start the war. They didn't participate in the war.
Right.
Donald, it's your war.
Right. Yeah.
It's a paper time.
What are the other things that Iran is has been saying for 4 decades, that they want the destruction of the United States, they want the destruction of Israel. So I don't think Israel is going to concede territory or give in and say, so they're negotiating with 2 partners, Israel and the United States, and I'm not sure that they're aligned anymore. When they started, maybe, but they're not going to come to an agreement necessarily if Israel doesn't get what it wants. And what does Israel want? I'm not sure. It wants to destroy Iran's nuclear capacity. And can it live without the oil? And maybe there's other ways that Israel can get the oil that it needs. But Israel is operating independently of the United States now. So, how do we finagle this 3-country kind of negotiations when there's no willing partners?
Jim, it's very easy to explain why Israel started this war, because of the 47 years of threat to destroy Israel, right, and create the nuclear bomb and so on. Okay, so it's understandable. Okay, I'm not trying to justify it, but at least it's explainable. And when Israel started by destroying Ayatollah and his advisors and so on, basically that could spell the end of war, because without the live government, and there was no longer live government after the first strike, then I even don't understand why US entered the war, what they wanted to get out of it.
That's it. What's the end game? Yeah.
Actually, there is an interesting theory because we discussed earlier on a Ukrainian show who is the biggest beneficiary of this war. And apparently, it's Russia because sanctions were removed from Russia selling their oil, although all the remaining members of G7 advised not doing that, but
Right.
Trump is doing
Yeah.
whatever he wants to do.
Yeah.
So now, interesting situation is if Putin is the biggest beneficiary of that war. So, as much talk about Netanyahu getting Trump into this war, so maybe Putin also did. Maybe Putin encouraged America to get into the war. Just go and do it.
Yeah.
No, we know that Iran and Russia, they are very closely involved as almost two very friendly, supporting each other powers. So now I will understand another thing. Now Iran threatened a war against Ukraine because Ukraine is helping Arab states with their anti-drone technology. So now this is not friendly action for Iran, although they're forgetting that Iran was helping Russia against Ukraine all the time. So let's imagine that Iran has some kind of device that could fly and reach Ukraine, although I doubt it very much, but could be. Why not?
We have to go over NATO countries.
Okay. So what in this situation U.S. will do? The U.S. will defend Ukraine. If he does defend Ukraine, why he doesn't defend Ukraine against Russia? Why he's on the Putin side? By the way, to finish this subject, I would like to mention that in the last several days, Ukraine is doing enormous attacks against Russian positions, and their drones are now flying for well over 24 hours right in Moscow, and they are bombing Moscow targets. And all the officials, including Putin, they got away from Moscow to specified locations. So go and figure out. So there is, on the other hand, there is a talk between, okay, let's have a peace talk. But actually, I'm getting lost why Ukraine at this point needs any peace talks. When it got initiative, they are destroying all targets on Ukrainian territories. Also,
well, certainly Russia would owe Ukraine reparations, as we were just talking about the United States and Russia.
Absolutely, that goes without saying. But first, Ukraine has to evict all these Russian troops again on territory of Ukraine. It has to get, and it seems to me the way it's what's going right now, I think it's going to happen in the next few weeks, because Ukraine now has initiative and Russia is in disarray. Their troops are running away from Ukrainian attackers, and Ukrainians are better equipped. They're much more motivated than Russians. And Russians are avoiding any direct fights with Ukrainians. One of the reasons also is that Ukrainians are much better physically prepared. They're bigger, they're stronger, and Russians are just running away from that. There is no any fights, direct fights. They're avoiding that. So how far they can run? Maybe they're very good runners, and that's what's their strategy.
The Kenyans are good runners, but I don't know about the rest. But, the idea here is that when we had international law, that there were sovereign countries and one could not invade the other. Putin was the first to break that. And now Trump seems to be doing what Putin has done. And, going in and kidnapping the president of Venezuela, for example, murdering people in their boats, whether or not they had drugs on them, who knows? There was something called rules of engagement in the military. We didn't follow those. There's something called due process. We haven't been following those since Trump started. even with the immigrants that we're rounding up and shipping out indiscriminately. Sometimes U.S. citizens are being deported, and these types of things. The rule of law has been violated over and over again.
On every level. Which way? Look, how this war started. He never addressed American people or Congress or House or Senate.
Congress has the ability to declare war. The president
were
attacked.
Yeah, on 23rd, I think it was Monday of February, Netanyahu came over to Washington, had a talk with Trump, and then 5 days later the war started. So there is no due process whatsoever, nothing.
Yeah, and you can connect the dots. Yeah, and so he went in there. He got pumped up by Bibi and decided that he was going to do what, though? What did he decide he was going to do? Just bomb them into submission? And who's suffering? It's the Iranian people. Yes, he took out the leaders, and but one of the things you worry about with Putin is if you take Putin out of the equation, will someone worse step in? And we took the Ayatollah out, and the Ayatollah had his entire mindset around the destruction of Israel and the destruction of the great Satan. But his son could be a worse actor.
Could be. Now there is a talk that he is actually in Moscow trying to get his health in a better shape. That's what I heard.
Wow.
We'll see.
Well, he was certainly injured in the strikes, the initial strikes.
Actually, the tragedy for Trump is that this first strike, killing Ayatollah and all his advisors, it was done by Israel solo. So Trump cannot even claim that, okay, we killed this and that and that. He didn't kill, actually, Ayatollah. He didn't kill all his advisors.
Israel has the intelligence. Yeah.
So it was Israel who did. So now what actually got out of this war? You, Trump, you want to declare yourself a winner. A winner against who? What you've done? Destroyed a school, killing 150 some students? What else have you done?
His actions were to take oil, to take Venezuela and take its oil. That was certainly the only rationale for what he did to Venezuela. And so I think in his mind, he was going to seize oil as a result of this. And so he would get free oil or deeply discounted oil, or he would be able to sell Iranian oil. And so it's it's the old follow the money, follow the oil, And
but you know what? There are two parallel lines. On one hand, yes, oil is consideration. On the other hand, if you take history of Iran and Iranian people, they are extremely stubborn. They are extremely unyielding.
Yes.
They are not prone to agreements and to settlements or so. They're not. They're going to fight until the last soldiers. They're extremely vindictive people, and they can start. Actually, they already bombed, I think, U.S. embassy in Iraq.
Yes.
And then they will be starting all attacks around the world on American targets, on American people, American embassies, and so on. So what exactly you achieved by this war? You're creating an eternal enemy. American people will not be able to travel as freely as before. Yes. And there could be the terror acts all over the world, including the United States itself.
And they would tell us that you may have all the watches, but we have all the time. And so they had the time to plan this and to execute this in ways that we can't predict. We don't know when, where, or who. But escalating this kind of anti-U.S. sentiment was entirely avoidable. You did not have to do it. There was always going to be
or by choice.
Yes, there was always going to be antipathy towards Israel and the United States from that part of the world. However, what Trump has done is stuck his thumb in it and started to push on it to make it something that they cannot ignore, that they must take retaliatory action now. So, there is no upside. He wasn't going to get free oil. He wasn't going to seize Iranian assets and call them his own. He's not a Trump. He's not a president that makes something. He's a president that takes things. And so he can't take this. And he didn't know it, or he was told he couldn't, but, he did it anyway.
Well, he did yesterday, I believe. Yesterday, it's so childish when he complained that who could believe that Iran will start hurting our Gulf states and U.S. targets. But Iran was talking about this for months.
Yeah,
That's what they're going to do.
And only the real
the
Trump base, the Trump supporters who think he can do no wrong, believe what he's saying now. But those of us who are at least, and I think a lot of independents that voted for Trump last time around, they're not buying that. No. They're seeing this is crazy talk. This guy is talking nuts. Who would believe it? You were told. Your military advisors told you what would happen, and that there was no military solution for reopening that strait. So, I think the independents now are saying, okay, that's enough is enough. And I think we're going to see it as a result. We're already seeing it in special elections, but we're going to see it in the future in the midterms. But by then, what will have happened to the markets? By then, I think the markets will be in disarray, and it will be a hard recovery. So, I think that there are certain assets that you're safe to hold. Moving into safer, it's a time for caution, not a time for optimism. And we've talked about gold and silver as the safe havens, but also, the effect on the American dollar since Trump took office has been significant as well.
That's why I believe that Bitcoin maybe has some potential. On the other hand, it's very shaky proposition. It's not something what I would do myself. I did a couple of trades on Bitcoin related stocks. But again, I made a little profit and then get out of it.
Well, Trump has put some of his family's wealth into cryptocurrency, and he was supported by Saudi Arabian money, and this is if the American dollar goes down, cryptocurrency goes up, he's doing fine. So no one has used the presidency to enrich themselves the way Trump has. And it used to be scandalous, and now people are just saying, well, I guess that's what presidents do. No, that's not what presidents do.
You see, what worries me about Bitcoin, okay, it has pretty good chart right now. But you see, unlike US dollar, gold, silver, it doesn't have a genuine demand. Okay, I need 10 Bitcoins, okay? I need to buy 10 Bitcoins. It's a purchase that you believe that there will be even bigger fool who will buy it from you at the higher price, because there's no utilization, there is no process that you can, okay, I'm going on vacation, okay, here's a Bitcoin, I want to pay by Bitcoin. Nobody will take your Bitcoin, just keep it. Give us a US dollar, give you your credit card, give you something of value. This is Bitcoin. Where is the value? Some people see a lot of value. I'm not in that camp. I really don't.
Well, regardless of that, there's no question that the American dollar is suffering. And so what that means is that your purchasing power is suffering as well. You cannot buy things for the same value that you used to. And so again, this is we have to realize that starting with the tariffs, this was just another Trump ignoring all advice and putting unilateral tariffs on. Tariffs are the province of Congress again. It's the expansion of the executive branch has been incredible under Trump, and he was getting initial support from the Supreme Court, but now the Supreme Court has done a pivot, I think led by Justice Roberts. And so there's only two holdouts, Alito and Thomas, that are still, stepping in line, standing firm behind Trump's tactics to make the executive branch more powerful than it's ever been. without the checks and balances that have kept the democracy together for 2.5 centuries. It's really the Supreme Court has started to say no. Federal judges around the country are starting to say no. And so, in Trump, in litigation, in his mind, you always just keep, appealing, keep the court systems tied up with my appeals. And he used to wear out people for, laborers that he would stiff. They would sue him, but he would appeal it. And so they would go without pay for this whole time, and they're paying for lawyers, and they would finally give up.
I think that after midterm elections, that strategy may not work out very well for Trump. If there will be a decisive victory in the House for Democrats and Senate split probably, although I don't rule out that the Democrats may take House as well, the Senate as well. It's very possible.
Even that it's in play is amazing, considering where we were in 2024. And it's like
the House could be an overwhelming victory for the Democrats. In fact, they're all seats now will be for voting, and I think Democrats can score 60, maybe even more percentage in the House, and maybe they can win a couple of votes in Senate as well. But we'll see how it will work out. In the meantime, we have to be vigilant. I don't look forward for much of good news for stock market in the near future, unfortunately. I don't know. I have minimum position. Yeah, I have minimum position, and I keep them simply because there are puts, which one, the closest one are expiring April 17th on Oracle. And Oracle had good earnings, but stock, it moved higher a little bit, but then went down, and it's kind of keeps the same. The only way how it can move higher is at the end of this Iranian war. And because I don't see how it can happen in the near future, so I'll wait until this puts will expire, April 17th. I will be assigned, we'll end up with 400 shares of Oracle. We'll start selling covered calls and that, and we'll eat it all as it comes. What can I say?
Well, I took money off the table, as I've told you before, in the fourth quarter of last year. And, I was expecting a dip in February, and then I was going to start getting back into the market. But this special military operation, this war of choice, has thrown such a monkey wrench into all of my planning. I can't see you getting back into the market right now.
No, for several months. I think the time probably will be around the midterm election. I really don't see anything positive in the next few months.
It's very hard to predict what would give us a sense of stability in such an unstable environment. The markets don't.
If Strait of Hormuz would reopen, if the oil price will go back to $60, okay, that can give some positive movement in the market. It's not going to be flying like ever before, no. But it will be some kind of a positive movement, which will last maybe a week, 2 weeks' time. But what's then happened? Inflation is getting worse and worse. So that will play a very big role. Right now, people are not talking much about inflation, although look at the gas pumps around the country. So the average price, last what I heard, was $3.78. It's not too far from $4. But it's across the country. In some places, it's much more expensive, some places less expensive. Well, that's where we are. Jim, thank you so much for today's program. And looking forward to see you next week, same place, same time. Bye-bye, everybody.